Okay, so today we're going to get into circles. So we're going to start by kind of introducing the basic parts of a circle. So I really like this picture here. It shows you all of the very important and different parts of a circle. So the first thing that is pretty obvious is the center of the circle. Now from the center of the circle, if you draw a line from the center to the outer edge, anywhere to the outer edge, this is called a radius. Okay, so a radius is any line segment that connects the center to a point on the circle. Okay, so the radius, no matter where you draw it, is halfway across the circle. Now if you want to draw a line through the center all the way across the circle, this is called your diameter. So any line segment that passes through the center of the circle connecting 2 points on the circle. And so kind of good thing to know, since the radius is halfway across, the diameter is all the way across. The diameter is twice as long as the radius. Now when we talk about circumference, you can kind of relate circumference to perimeter. The circumference is basically the perimeter of the circle. It's the distance around. If I wanted to fence in this circle, it would tell me how much fence I need. And the last thing down here in yellow, we use pi for a lot of our formulas. And instead of using pi, I know a lot of you have the pi button on your calculator just simply for consistency purposes, we're going to use 3.14. Okay, so although the pi button is going to be more accurate, we want to use 3.14 just because not every calculator has that pi button on there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the circumference of a circle. Okay, so remember the circumference of the circle, it's the distance around. Like I said before, you can kind of relate it to the perimeter of a circle. And we're going to find the circumference of a circle by taking pi times the diameter. Remember, diameter is all the way across the circle. Now let's say in your picture you're not given the diameter, you're given the radius. We have another formula we can use. We can take 2 pi r. And the reason why we can do this is because the diameter is equal to twice the radius. So just two different formulas, either one will work. So let's draw a circle here for this first one. It looks like I have that distance is 6 inches. So whenever you're looking at a circle, no matter what you're being asked to find, whether it's circumference or area, just figure out which dimensions you're given. So since this point goes from the center of the circle to the outside edge, this is my radius. So we're going to use this second formula here. So the circumference equals 2 pi r. So we're going to leave 2 alone. Instead of pi, we're going to plug in 3.14. My radius is that 6 inches there. So whenever you take 2 times 3.14 times 6, punch all that in your calculator, you get 37 and 68 hundredths inches. Now since circumference is a distance, it just stays inches. It's not squared or cubed or anything like that. It's just a distance. Okay, well this one, let's say this time I have this distance of 16 and 2/10 feet. Okay, now this time, since this line is drawn all the way across the circle, that 16 and 2/10 is my diameter. So this time we're going to use that first formula, where we are going to take pi times the diameter. So instead of pi, plug in 3.14. My diameter is 16 and 2/10. When you punch that into your calculator, you should get 50 and 868 thousandths feet. Okay, so another thing we want to be able to do is kind of work in the opposite direction. So this time I'm going to give you the circumference. We want to find the radius, and then we also want to find the diameter. Okay, so just kind of an example here. Let's say I have a circle that has a circumference of 22 and 6/10 meters. I want to know first what the radius is. Now we're going to find the radius first, and we're going to find the diameter afterward, just because it's going to be a little more precise if we do it this way. So to find the radius first, we need to use the formula that said circumference equals 2 pi r. What we're going to do is we're going to go back through and we're going to substitute any values that we know. So if I start here with the c, well, it told me that c equals 22 and 6/10. So we're going to plug that in there. The 2 stays the same. Instead of pi, let's go ahead and plug in 3.14, and then the radius just stays in r because that's what I'm looking for. So if we go through and simplify, 2 times 3 and 14/100 is 6 and 28/100 times r. And to solve for r, you would divide both sides by 6 and 28/100. So you should get the radius is about 7 meters. Okay, so if the radius is about 7 meters, the diameter, I know, is twice that. I want you to do this next one on your own, so set it up the exact same way. This time the circumference is 82 centimeters. So go ahead and pause the video, find the radius first, and then double it and find the diameter. Alright, well hopefully you got the radius to be about 13 centimeters in diameter. Once you double that, you should get all the way across the circle to be 26 centimeters. Okay, so we've been talking about circumference, so the distance around the circle. Now we're going to find the area of circles. So once again, just another formula for you. This time we don't have two separate formulas. So I don't have the circumference if I'm given the diameter. I only have one formula, and it is if I have the radius. So the thing you really need to watch out for here is if they give you the diameter, you've got to find your radius. We don't want to use diameters for this one. So the area is equal to pi, and then we're going to take our radius and we're going to square it. Okay, so for this first example, let's say I've got this circle and I've got this dimension here, which is 3 inches. Okay, first thing you need to do, look at the dimension you're given. Is it my radius or is it my diameter? Hopefully you recognize that it is my radius. So since it's my radius, I can just plug these values in for my formula. So a equals pi r squared. Instead of pi, once again, we're going to use 3.14, and my radius is 3, and we are going to square it. So we really should be taking 3.14 times 9, and we get an area of 28 and 26/100 inches squared. Okay, let's look at this one where I have this dimension as 18 centimeters. Now, I really, really hope that the first thing that you notice is that I am not given the radius. I'm given the diameter. So I don't want all the way across the circle. I want from the center of the circle to the outer edge. So if my diameter is 18 centimeters, that means that my radius is half of that. So it is 9 centimeters. So we are going to use r equals 9. So to find the area, we're going to take 3.14 times 9, and we're going to square it. And we get 3.14 times 81 for an area of 254 and 34/100 centimeters squared. And once again, since we're talking about area, our units are going to be squared. Okay, now the last thing we want to do, just like with the perimeter, instead of giving you the radius or the diameter, I'm going to give you the area, and I want you to first find the radius, and then I want you to find the diameter. So for this first one, let's say I have an area of 340 centimeters squared. So remember my formula, we're going to take a equals pi r squared, plug in the numbers that you do know. Well, I know the area is 340. Instead of pi, I'm going to plug in 3.14. I'm looking for r, so it kind of just has to say r squared. Now, I hope that you guys remember whenever we started talking about the squared units that we want to isolate that r squared. So to isolate it, we're going to divide both sides by 3.14, and we should end up with about 108.28 is equal to r squared. Okay, but I don't want to know what my radius squared is. I want to know what r is. So to undo a squared, we're going to take the square root of both sides. And when you do that, you should get the radius is about 10 centimeters. And if the radius is 10 centimeters, that means the diameter has to be 20 centimeters. So kind of same idea as before, just a couple extra steps. So I want you guys to try this one. I want you to find me the radius if the area is 45 meters squared. So go ahead and pause the video, find my radius, and then double it to find my diameter. Alright, well hopefully you got a radius of 4 inches and a diameter which is twice the radius of 8 inches.